In this video, we're going to look at the algebraic approach to answering these two questions. Again, so in part A, it's asking to evaluate, and evaluate is when we know an input value, and that input value here is 4.5. And when we solve, that means that we know the output value, and that output value is 26. So now let's go ahead and look. Following function G models the percent of music sales that were from digital downloads between 2008 and 2015. So this is, we did this problem in a previous lesson. So it's the same function. This time it's saying G of Y because G is the function name. So the function G, which means that is our function name. The output variable is P, percent of total music sales from digital downloads. And the input is inside the parentheses, which is Y. And so we know that that is the year since 2008. So we want to evaluate, and evaluate again, knowing the input. So we want to know G of 4.5, and when we are evaluating, that means we're going to plug in the known input value into the equation wherever we see our variable, and we see it there. So we know that we're going to take 6.8 and we're going to plug in 4.5, and then so 6.8 times 4.5 plus 24.15, and we plug this into our calculator just as we see it, and we end up with G of 4.5 equals 54.75. So 54.75. So if we write our answer in function notation, so this is using function notation, then we don't have to label it. However, if we don't write it in function notation and we just say, because again, G represents the total percent of music sales, then that would mean that if we don't write it in function notation, we would have to say P equals 54.75%. So we have to label our answer if it's not written in function notation. Now, what we need to do, it says it also explain the meaning of the answer in the context of the problem. So our answer, so again, we have an input part of the statement and an output part. 4.5 represents the years since. So 4.5 years since 2008. And now the output part, 54.75% of total sales were from digital downloads. All right. So for part B, it says to solve. So that means when I solve, that means I know the output value. And so my output value is 26. So 26 is my output. And I'm trying to figure out what my input is. So 26 now equals 6.8 y plus 24.15. And we're going to solve this. And so we need to move the 24.15 because it's being added. We're going to subtract 24.15. And when we do that, we end up with 1.85. And then now we need to eliminate the 6.8. And since it's being multiplied, we're going to divide by 6.18. or I'm sorry, just 6.8. I think I said that incorrectly. So y equals 0.27, and because right now it's not in function notation, I have to make sure that I label this, and since we're talking about y, and y is our years, that's our input, so y equals 0.27 years, or if I write it in function notation, I would say g of 0.27 equals 26. Again, emphasizing that 26 is my output, and my input that I just found, which was y, is 0.27. So then we'll write a similar statement because we need to write what it means in context. So 0.27 years since 2008, 26% of downloads, of total sales, total music sales, was from digital downloads.